Hey everyone, welcome back. We're in a little bit of a different setting today. We're actually just in the bedroom. It's about 11:30 at night and I'm just about ready to take all this makeup off and have a shower. But before I settle down for the night, I thought I'd shoot a video simply because I'm actually wearing the item that I want to talk to you about tonight. So I applied this makeup, apart from the lipstick which I just put on and a little bit of powder, roughly actually 12 hours ago. And I think it's held up really well. Not too much creasing on the eyeshadow. The face products still look quite deep. I did go a little heavy today because sometimes more is more. But I wanted to share with you a brand new palette that was sent to me last week. I've been using it almost every single day since I did receive it because I've really been enjoying it. The product is this. This is the Highlight and Contour palette from Thebalm. I've been talking about Thebalm since the blog began, really. I have been a really long time lover of their products. I feel like for a long time they were really one of the most underhyped brands available. Let's crack this open and start talking about it. Okay, so the palette comes in this slip package, which is basically the same as the front cover. The front cover has, I guess with the name, the Highlight and Contour, they're trying to sort of portray a music kind of vibe with this palette, so there's a bit of a music theme. They look like their albums on the front, and then when we get to the product shade names, you'll find that they are also kind of musically related. So it's a really nice cardboard package. It's quite sturdy. It's fairly typical of the Thebalm palettes. Really nice, smooth, thick cardboard. It's also quite heavy, and I found that a lot of the weight actually is in the mirror. So the mirror does fold back, which is what I'll do to not blind you, and you'll see that there are 8 shades of powder in this palette. What we have are 2 shimmery shades of highlight. We then have 2 matte shades of highlight. We then have 2 contour shades. One's a little bit lighter than the other. We then have a more warm toned orangey bronzer, and then we have a beautiful blush. Before we get started, I thought I would point out a few things. First of all, I'm not sure if this is happening with all the palettes or just mine. There seems to be a little bit of inconsistency amongst the palettes. Some of them are deeper, some of them actually aren't placed straight or flush. They're a little bit kind of, I don't know if you're able to see that, but they're actually a little bit wonky in the palette. Again, I don't know if this is just my palette, if it got banged up in transit, but in some cases the pan is actually sticking up a little bit from the void that it's supposed to be in. As I said, I'm a long time lover of Thebalm. I feel like they really excel at their powder products. The majority of the eyeshadow palettes that I've tried are very beautiful, very blendable. There have been a few misses in the past, but they are very well known, particularly for their highlighters. But I do feel like they make really good blushes as well. And this one here, the deep tone of it does remind me a little bit of one of the In-Stain blushes, which are a phenomenal product. Now, automatically having a look at this palette, I think it's pretty obvious that the skin tones that this is best suited to are fair to medium towards dark. I think even that's a stretch. I think these contour powders, when you see them swatched, you'll see that they're actually not very good for dark skin tones. Although the highlighters, particularly that pink one, would probably look quite nice on a darker skinned person. So the darker shades here, or the contour and blush shades, they're kind of named after decibels, I suppose you could say. And then here, are they called gigahertz? Hertz? I'm not sure. I'm not a music person. But as I said, you've got 2 contoury shades, a bronzer, a blush. I really do like that they've included a blush in this palette. I feel like even some of the most well-loved palettes, face palettes, often forget to put a blush in, and I really like the fact that that's there. It makes it a more complete palette, and it makes me feel like I'm more likely to actually travel with it. Okay, let's go through each of these shades. I have to stay really still. I just realized at the point where I'm sitting on the bed, it's actually really creaky, so one of the slats must be a little bit creaky here, so I'm trying not to move. So these 2 shades here are like your traditional sort of illuminating highlighters. These 2 here are a matte highlighter. So these are the ones that you're most likely to use in the center of your face to make the center of your face pop. I don't think I would say that you could bake with these because I don't think the texture is quite right for that. But there is a yellowy toned one, which is sort of similar to your classic banana powder. And then we've got a more pinky, like a cooler tone one there. The texture of these are quite nice. If we swatch them, it's not a very hard swatch there. Very pale shades. Obviously these are going to be best for lighter skin tones. Even the banana shade is still quite light. Like, I find that I often can't use a banana shade because it's a little bit too yellow for me. But this one I can actually use. It's a lot more, for me, wearable. The shades that I was most excited about for in this palette were the two illuminating shades. We've got one here that is like a champagne-y gold, and then we've got a almost champagne-y pink there. The shade 64 there looks remarkably like the Balm's Mary Lou. Does look very similar in the pan. However, the texture of these is completely different. So this product is a lot harder in the pan. I did swatch quite heavily. The pigment, it's still quite pigmented, but I feel like it's not as pigmented as the original. So this is the shade from the palette. Still a beautiful shade, but it's not quite as sparkly and high intensity as the Balm's Mary Lou. This one feels like absolute velvet to touch, and it seems to just pick up so much more colour and product. Hopefully this is translating onto camera. 125 is a beautiful shade. I feel like it's a little too dark for me personally, but I could certainly use this on top of blush as a blush topper. Again, the texture is a lot harder than Cindy Lou or even Mary Lou. I think there's a lot more of a deep pink there than there is in Cindy Luminizer. So about these two, I'm a little bit disappointed about the texture. I really was hoping they'd be the same as the original Mary Lou, but I figure they might have sort of played with the formula a bit, considering this is in a palette and it's a much smaller pan. Regardless of the change in texture, they're still really beautiful products. Moving on to the contours, to me this second shade looks so scary in the pan. It literally looks like I'd be rubbing chocolate coloured dust on my face. In the YouTube beauty world, the word pigmented is thrown around so much to indicate high quality. There are some products, however, that you don't want to be too high pigmented. So swatching these two, while there certainly is a lot of pigment there, they're not so pigmented that they're going to stain the skin and make your contour blending impossible. So me personally, as a lighter skin person, finds these are quite good. If you have skin that is a lot darker than mine, this is probably not going to work for you simply because it is a little bit of a sheerer powder. The only shade that I haven't really used all that much is that bronzer shade. I feel like it's a little bit too warm for me and it's a little bit too orange. But, well, I don't know if it's unfortunately or fortunately, this one is actually probably the smoothest out of the entire palette. While you might consider that the highlighters are going to be buttery smooth, again, they're not, but that shade definitely is. And then onto the blush shade. It's a really lovely rosy pink, and I feel like depending on how heavily you swatch it or how heavily you actually use it, you can use it on a wide range of skin tones. Something like that would even work on a darker skin tone. My overall thoughts is this is a lovely palette. I feel like the fact that it does include that shade there makes it a lot more of a travel friendly, convenient palette. I feel like if you are going to travel with these two shades here can be used as a really nice face powder, and you can actually blend a whole bunch of the shades together to create a kind of custom colour. Onto the criticisms of the palette. Well, I mean, mine's not all that well made, but that I can forgive. I'm really disappointed they didn't go ahead and perhaps just have this shade and a very dark shade so that, you know, darker skinned girls can actually go ahead and get some use out of this. I feel like everything else, maybe not these two, but these two definitely you could work with darker skin, but something darker here would have really helped to make this a really universal kind of palette. It's really not all that much that you had to do to it. Other thing that is kind of irking me about this, and perhaps it's just an OCD thing, but obviously these pans are quite slimline, so unless you're using something like this which is quite narrow to pick up product, which fair enough, that's the case with the contour, but with a blush or a highlight you might want to use something like a fan brush or a powder brush, you're going to be mixing up shades. And if you can see, I'm not sure if the light's going to wash this out, there's already kind of staining in the cardboard here where the shades have kind of gotten onto the packaging. So this brush here, this one's from Lottie London. This one fits in perfectly. A whole bunch of chisel contour brush is going to fit in nicely. But if you do prefer to apply your blush with something like this, which is quite large, then you're going to find that you're not going to pick it up evenly, but also there is going to get product all over there. So there are my thoughts on the highlight and contour palette from the Balm. If you'd like to see some natural light swatches and head over to lipsticknlinguine.com. Otherwise, let me know what you think about this palette. If you have the palette, whether you're thinking of picking up the palette, if you've seen it online somewhere, let me know. Leave me a link down below so I can upload and update my website. But yeah, I hope you have found this an informative, helpful video. I hope you have enjoyed this kind of more cozy setup. I'm not sure that I'm going to stick around here and do videos here from now on. I think it's just something that was nice to do for today. We'll see, let me know. Anyway, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for watching. As usual, thank you so much for coming and spending some time with me in this little corner of the internet, and I'll see you next time. Bye.